So now that you know how awesome Bootstrap is, let's see how we get started with it. A quick note first about Bootstrap versions though. As you can see from getbootstrap.com on my computer, version 3 is currently the latest version, but Bootstrap 4 is on its way. Although they're very similar in many ways, Bootstrap 4 has got a lot of cool stuff and is a completely rewritten version of Bootstrap 3, so I'm going to be focusing on Bootstrap 4 in this course. So that means if you're watching these videos and when you go to getbootstrap.com it says version 3, then you should have a quick Google for Bootstrap 4 and then click on the top result. So as I'm recording these videos, Bootstrap 4 is at the alpha stage, so I'm going to be using this website, but you might be using a different one if version 4 is in beta, for example, or if you go to getbootstrap.com and it says currently version 4, then you can just use that version. Either way, I'd recommend starting off by clicking the big download Bootstrap button. And then on my page, I'm going to click Introduction and then scroll down and we'll see a nice starter template there. If you're working on getbootstrap.com, then it's a slightly different navigation. You click the download button and then you scroll down until you see the basic template. So same thing, but a slightly different way of getting there. Either way, select the basic template. So just Command C or Control C, and then back over to brackets, and I'm going to replace everything in my jQuery.html file, and then I'm going to go File, Save As, and I'm going to create a new folder in my Complete Web Developer folder. So new folder, and I'm going to call it 5-Bootstrap. And the file I'll call bootstrap.html. There we go. Very quick challenge for you then. Can you update the URL here so that we're looking at the Bootstrap file rather than our old jQuery one? Go for it. All right, hope you got it. All you need to do is change 4jQuery to 5-Bootstrap, because that's the new folder, and then I called it bootstrap.html. And there we go. So you can see that already our hello world is nice and styled and looking good. Great, so we're all set up, but just before we dive any deeper into Bootstrap, let's just make sure we understand what's going on in this example file that we've downloaded. And I'm also going to change the layout a little bit to spread it out and get rid of any comments because they look a bit messy. Okay, so we're used to having our HTML tag with a language attribute. We've seen that before. And then we've got the header. Then we've got the character set, UTF-8. We've seen that before. And we've also seen the viewport meta tag. This is a new one though, the X UA compatible tag. Essentially, it's a specific tag for Internet Explorer, and it's used to control backward compatibility. So essentially, if we change this to content IE equals 8, then that would make every version of Internet Explorer after version 8 render the site using its Internet Explorer 8 compatibility mode. So this is just a way to be sure that your site will display correctly in future versions of Internet Explorer. Now we're designing our site when Internet Explorer Edge is the latest version. So this line is a kind of safety net that if the next version of Internet Explorer displays things or works in a different way to Edge, then our site will force it to use the Edge compatibility mode so that our site will display how we expect it to. So it's not a critical line there, but that's what it does. Right, then we've got our Bootstrap CSS. We don't need a comment there, I don't think. Notice this is being loaded from a CDN, Bootstrap CDN or Content Delivery Network. We saw this with jQuery and jQuery UI, and we also heard why it's generally a good idea. If you do want to download Bootstrap though and host it on your own website, you can do that. The option's right there in the download section. Just copy the CSS and JavaScript files and then reference them on your own site rather than using the CDN. but I'm going to leave this as is. The integrity attribute there just confirms that you are using the version of the file that you think you are. And the cross origin attribute there just confirms that we're using this resource anonymously and not sending any credentials or login details to be able to use it. Note, of course, that if you're using a slightly different version of Bootstrap to me, you'll have a slightly different URL here, and that's fine. Okay. Closing the header and body tags we're used to, H1 we're familiar with, and then you can see we've got our jQuery script and our Bootstrap CDN or Content Delivery Network, Bootstrap.js beneath. It does have to be that way round because Bootstrap depends on jQuery. So if you try and put Bootstrap first, then a lot of the JavaScript aspects of Bootstrap won't work. All right. Hope that makes sense. Now we've got Bootstrap up and running, we're going to be looking at a number of its features, but the first is the most important, and that is how it allows us to create responsive websites. It does that using grids. We're going to take a good look at the Bootstrap grid system in the next video.